Joining us, we have the students from the Master of Global Finance and Economics, who you will be interacting with in the next 2 weeks. And we also have first-year students who are here, some of them online here today, some will be online. And we have some motivated bachelor students who will also with us. So with that, I want to thank you for the commitment. The stage is now. So,
so good afternoon, everyone. First of all, thanks a lot for organizing the seminars and hope you. And my name is Frank Myung. Myung Hong Dak in Vietnamese, and I'm a postdoc at the University of Canberra and research associate at the Center for Applied Macroeconomics Analysis at ANU. And in my research, I focus on using household survey and survey experiment to understand how people form macroeconomic expectation and make economic decisions, as well as how policy implementation can lead to this process, how to form expectation and make economic decisions. And today I'm going to present a new book, which I Vika Mahensa is an economist at the National Bank of Slovakia, and Chandra Navarro is my business student at the University of Lausanne in Germany. So this book is focused on the impact of intervention policy on household macroeconomic expectation. And we can explain on my common household team for including our server experiment in their panel conducted in 2025. So it's a very fresh result and research. So we are very much looking forward to the comment, feedback, so that we can improve our work. So this is about the impact of intervention policy on household macro expectation and macro expectation. Here we refer to economic growth expectation and inflation expectation. But first, let's start with some style facts about how we form economic growth expectation and inflation expectation. And we first look at professional macro expectations in advanced economy, first in the USA and then in 6 Euro area countries like Germany, Italy, Spain, France, Netherlands, and also New Zealand as well. So here is a professional forecast. So you can see that it's the economic forecast, and the y-axis here is the anticipated output growth or economic growth, and on the x-axis is expected inflation. And here is also the next column of how people think about, or professional forecasters, they think about economic growth in the next 12 months and inflation in the next 12 months. And the data here for the USA is from both data here from 2000 to 2020, and they already control more countries and towns. And here you can see that all the results here is so very strong correlation and positive correlation between expected inflation and economic growth expectation. So it implies that in the economics view, they always think economic or macroeconomic issues as the demand driven cycles, because when we have high inflation, we also have a high economic growth, or high economic growth, we have high inflation. So it's very much about the demand driven factors for how people or professional forecasters they think about macroeconomic development. But now if we look at the same issues about economic growth expectation and inflation expectation from household use, and here also from advanced economy, and the same here for USA and 5 European countries plus 6 European countries. And here we can see that these are totally different pictures, and it's a negative correlation between expected inflation and economic growth. So it's very much different with strong and positive correlation between expected inflation and expected economic growth for the professional forecasters. So it implies that for households, when they think about macroeconomic issues, they often driven by the supply driving factors. So when we think about high inflation, they also think about low economic growth, or low economic growth is also associated with high inflation. So it's mainly driven by the supply factors. But the result is just about the correlation, only it's not about the cause effect, expected inflation or expected economic growth. And in this paper, we look at the impact of green transition policies on how people form expected inflation and expected economic growth. And the motivation for our papers here is quite straightforward. We ask the question, how does narrative framing of green transition policies set households' macroeconomic expectation? So it's not only about green transition policy, but how we interpret the green transition policy in terms of economic impact. Yeah, so four ideas of this paper is that expectation or macroeconomic expectation is not only driven by the information about green transition policy itself, but also by how we interpret the economic impact of the green transition policy, how we frame the impact of green transition policy, whether it's a supply driven or demand driven. And why it matters? Because we know that economic expectation is a main factor for household economic decisions and also just in the central bank or just in government. And here is a lot of work in literature also included by myself. We find that the household inflation expectation is an important factor for households when decisions about consumption, saving, and just in the central bank as well. But how the link between macroeconomic expectation and climate change the results were mixed. So some papers they find that there is negative correlation between climate change and macroeconomic expectation, and they find that those with high more concerns about climate change they have a lower inflation expectation because they think that the climate change can have negative impact on economic growth, and because of lower economic growth and lower activity may lead to lower inflation expectation. But on the other hand, other literature they find a positive correlation between the climate change concerns or the impact of climate change on inflation expectation. Because on the impact is supply driving. When the output is reduced, it leads to a higher cost of production and leads to higher inflation expectation. So the mixed results about the impact of climate change on inflation expectation and economic growth expectation. And the main thing is that it's a very limited cost evidence regarding how different policy framing set expectation, and we contribute to the literature about how we interpret the economic policy and green transition policies on the function of macroeconomic expectation. And this result is very important and relevant for policy communications and even just for the government or the central bank. So to make everyone on the same page, what we mean about green transition policy. So this research we conducted in certain households, and that's why we providing the green transition policy in Germany. So the German government, we talk about the German government study that was reduced carbon emission by 65% by 2030 compared to the 1990s level. That is a commitment of the German government to reduce carbon emission. And the key measure to achieve the hit here is the phase out of coal power, carbon pricing on fuels, and funding programs for energy efficiency buildings and renewable energies. So this is a green transition policy. But this also the typical policies in advanced economy as well. Germany is not the only one, but it's very typical green transition policy in many advanced economies. But there are two main popular narratives on the economic impact of mechanisms about how this policy impact on the economy. One is on the demand side narrative that say that this policy, green transition policy, can dampen consumption and investment, so it's a demand driver. And other narrative they talk about supply constraints levels of production and constraints capacity. And the challenge is that individually exposed to risk and narrative, exposed to demand side narrative and supply side narrative about green tax policy. And the question is which type narrative sets their macro expectations, and understanding this question is very crucial for the central bank communication, because ECB, particularly, they now know very much of the green transition and the support for the climate change for the macro policy action. So we need to know whether this policy driven household macro expectation, whether it's driven by the supply side or demand side, because it's a way to how the central bank communication and also with the policy action. So the research question that we try to answer in this paper is that whether a neutral fact-based climate policy information, macro expectation, and macro expectation. Here we talk about equal expectation, and true ECB, and the narrative framing of the policy, and focusing on the demand and the supply side consequences of this policy move to the limits about macro condition differently. And the approach that we use to answer this question is we conduct a survey experiment or micro trial experiment. So first we provide everyone all respondents about what is the green tax policies, and then in the second step we conduct an experiment that we run this sample in 3 groups, the control group without any further information, but one group we provide the demand narrative about potential impact of green transition policy, and the other group we provide the supply framing about the impact of the green transition policies. And after that we ask a question about infra expectation, equal expectation, and should be satisfied, so that we are able to distinguish the impacts of different narrative framing on the formation of macro expectation. And we make 3 main contributions to the research. So the first one, we provide further evidence regarding to the stagflationary use of household when they form macro expectations. And the second contribution, we contribute to the research about the impact of climate change on household macro expectations. And in the research, they just focus on the natural climate change issues or physical change regarding to climate change, but we emphasize about the role of green transition policy or climate change policy on the formation of macro expectation, because it's important for the central bank communication or also for fiscal policy communication regarding to the green transition policy. And we also look at the impact of climate change policy on ECB, because in the future now they also have paper look at the impact of the importance of the commitment of the ECB on climate change on ECB, but we look at the impact of the green transition policy from the fiscal side on the ECB, how it impacts on the ability of the central bank to keep price stability. So that is 3 main contributions of our paper to the literature. And feel free to interrupt me and ask me any question you might have. I'm very much looking forward to the question. Yeah. So here's our survey experiment, and the surveys here we use the best online panel household surveys. It's an online survey for German citizens from 16 years old until 80 years old. And it's a monthly survey conducted from early 2020 and conducted by Foresight research company focused on doing this household surveys in Germany. And the concept of question in the Bundesbank surveys here, they ask questions about infra expectation, equal expectation, economic expectation, and also consumption behavior attitudes about the future economic condition, and also financial those surveys in many advanced economies, US, in Europe, in ECB, but also at the national level of ECB as well, because they care a lot about how people form expectation about inflation and equity growth or the Central Bank Commission, because the central bank they care about how to manage the inflation expectation and annual inflation expectation, because it's the main purpose of the monetary policy. And for the most of the question here, they just ask about the next 12 months, but they also ask about the medium-term expectation, like 3 years ahead and 5 years ahead. What do you think about inflation next 3 years or next 5 years? They just ask for half samples about next 3 years and half sample they ask of 5 years ahead, because they don't want to ask too many questions for the same household, because maybe too demanding for the household. That's why they just ask a half sample with 2 years ahead and half of the samples for 5 years ahead expectation. And the special feature of this survey is that the question here can be submitted by external and internal researchers as well. So this year they have 2 times full proposals that external researcher also can submit some additional question to their core set of questions, so that we can make our own project. We also can we can make proposals about some experiments. We can provide different information to different households, and then we can see how to perform expectation or make decisions, or in many different topics, from fiscal policy, monetary policies, or also we get into this currency, for example, so in many different topics. And so last year we had proposal to start this project, and it was accepted last year, and also it's conducted in June 2025, so just 6 months ago. Also it's conducted and for free, but we have to make proposals and accepted by Bundesbank. And when we have questions here, we also have a lot of discussion with the Bundesbank team to revise the question and also make question with the concept of the survey. And our survey here also includes about 4,000 households in Germany, and so it's a quite large household survey. So structure of our RCP or survey experiment here is that after the concept question about macro expectation, but we also ask about the main or the concept question. They just ask about the next 12 months, and just a few questions asked about the next 3 years or 5 years ahead. We also have one question we asked about what do you think about the macro expectation in next 3 years or next 5 years. And I guess the question in this slide for you to know exactly the question put in our survey. So we ask everyone about what to think about growth and inflation expectation in the future. And then we provide the primary information about green transition policies to all respondents. So we talk about study and the national, as I mentioned, and previously of the organization, and to make everyone know about what we like about green transition policy, as by different people can think differently about green transition policy, because it's too broad. And so here we talk and we mentioned to everyone about what's like the green transition policies and what is the examples of the national. And now our survey experiment start. We randomly split the sample in 3 groups: the control group without any further information, and the opinion side negative group. Here we provide information about the impact, potential impact on the agri demand, and the third group. Here we provide some narrative about the potential impact of green policy on the agri supply. And after that, we ask everyone again about macro expectation. But now, to avoid asking the same question twice, right? We also add information, but considering the impact of
here the pre-treatment expectations and the post-treatment expectation questions were asked at the same time. So
Yeah, at the same time. Yeah. So
same day, for example.
yeah, same day, and so the online survey typically takes about 15 or 20 minutes to finish. And yeah, so the time difference between the pre-treatment and the post-treatment here may be just 1 minute or 2 minutes. So after the treatment here, the time that's spent waiting the treatment here is about 1 or 2 minutes at maximum. So yeah, so treatment here is 1 or 2 minutes. So that's why we can see exactly the treatment effects here. Just about 1 minute after the information.
There was no opportunity to obtain new information.
Yeah, exactly. But later actually we also waiting for the new data because here we have panel dimension, so that we also can this survey is conducted in June 2025, and we are waiting for the survey from Zoom lines and September, for example, so that we can see the impact of the information we provide here in the next 3 months or next 6 months, for example. Yes.
Usually, see in RCT, there must be a baseline survey. So it's like correct baseline survey to provide the demographic data, and then like separate the respondent into groups of control and treatment.
Yeah.
I don't find it here. And we separate the respondent into control. Or you just allocate randomly the treatment to the respondent.
Yeah, it's very random. So it means that the control and the treatment group is very similar regarding the demographic, like age, income, education. So all demographic characteristics of the control and the treatment group is the same.
Yeah. So how can
How do they get the different questions? I guess that's the question, right?
Yeah, I mean, the question is, did you get the demographic information of the respondent beforehand, before the already?
No, but they also have the kind. I think this is a little bit technical issues from the platform. They also can randomly, so it means that they don't know which information they can receive. And maybe monthly, and it depends on maybe the ID number, so that they only in the control group or in the index side or treatment number 2 or treatment 3.
So when you split the sample, the respondents are getting different set of questions, correct?
No, the question is the same. So the question 3, 4, and after the treatment is the same for everyone. But that's the information we provide here. That's one group. So for example, in this group is randomly for half of the group here receive that control group, and the other is information treatment, and we assume that this.
So the change is in the narrative.
Yeah. Yeah. So
How do you change the narrative?
yeah, now I use all the information. Yeah. Yeah, in the next slide I use all the information for different group. Okay. Yeah.
I think we have our Dr. Hai online. She is having a question.
Yeah.
Dr. Hai, can you raise your voice, please?
Yeah. Yeah, thank you for the question. So it's a very short narrative, and I will show you information in the next slide. Yeah.
I know how to make it. Just a moment. I want to change the sound system to the projector so that everyone can hear you. Can you say something about that?
You can always say something.
Okay, good. It is great now. So let's say we can communicate effectively. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Yes, for everyone joining online.
Yeah. So yeah, let's start with Yeah, so here the different questions on the prior macro expectation. So we have the quality expectation. How do you expect if it goes of in Germany on average over the next 5 years? And the second question is previous information here over 5 years, and if we decrease significantly or increase slightly the same or increase significantly so level. And we also ask one quantitative expectation, what do you think about interest rate or interest rate will be on average over the next 5 years in percentage point of quantitative expectation. And now this information we provide to everyone. Yeah. So about primary information about climate target and measure. So we have some to be, but as I already summarized at the beginning, so we mainly emphasize on the target of the carbon emission by the German government, and we give some examples about the measure to achieve this target, like phasing out coal power, carbon price on fuel, and funding programs for energy efficiency and renewable energy. Yeah, and we also have introduction here. The reducing carbon emission is one of the most important things for limiting the effect of climate change. So that's the motivational sentence to motivate people about the topic.
So this is actually what happened in the survey.
Yeah, yeah, this is information. But in the survey, we do not quote these sentences. That's for the information here. That is the key point that we want to emphasize. But yeah, in the survey, we will highlight these work of things. But that's also very important as well, because we don't want to demand or have demand effect of experimental. Yeah. But that's for the information here, because that is long, so that's why I highlight some words. Yeah. But that's very important as well. It's a lot of things because that's the way either we highlight or without highlight some things. Yeah, exactly. And then we run this split the sample in 3 groups, and control group without any information, and event group here we say that let us now look at some potential impact of these measures to reduce carbon emission on the economy. And two group here, one is the event group, we provide this information, and the supply group, we provide the information, and this information will also come from the literature, but we just summarize it very short because the survey participants they also just have about 1 minute or 50 minutes is total to complete the whole survey, so that's why the information should be short, otherwise people will ignore it and don't do it. So in the survey here for one group, we provide the information, and as I talked, we focus on the impact on demand sides, and the other we focus on the supply side. And the structure of this information is very similar. You can see about the language and the language is very similar between these two groups, but just the main difference between these groups is that this information will provide some potential negative impact of the future policies on the agriculture and the other focus on the corruption and capacity. And then we also have one question here. We ask these two groups about to what extent you agree with these limits on the potential impact of the measure to reduce carbon emission on the economy, and rank from 1 to 10. How much they agree with the information we provide. And then now we ask again everyone about the Australian macro expectation. Also the same thing here, but connection to the concept in the national to achieve climate change, and the same for both expectation and inflation expectation. Yeah. So all 3 groups here is similar in terms of demographic, but the difference is that one control group gives out further negative information, and the demand group they receive this information, and the other they receive the information, so that we can see the difference of the household reacting to different negative information. Okay, so the first set of the results here we have into the effects of primary information on climate science and measurement. So here we just look at the control group without any information, without any further information about the reality. But because we measure before and after the treatment, so we still can see what the impact of the information we provide us before and after for the control group. And here, for example, the information we provide to everyone. And now here's the impact of the market before and after the primary information for the control group, who without any further negative information. So we can see. And the first graph is for quantitative expectation, and the second one is quantitative interest expectation, and the last one is quantitative interest expectation. And for quantitative here we have 5 categories, but we just look in 3 categories because it's easier for us to display it. But the results does not change whether we use 5 or 3 categories. And here is the average group expectation before we provide the information, and here is the group expectation after the information treatment. So here we can see that after we provide the information about these certain policies, the economic growth expectation is reduced and lower. And for quantitative expectation is very similar before and after, but if we look at the quantitative expectation, we will see that the before the treatment, the before the inflation in the next 5 years, about 3.2%, but after information about climate change policy, they raised their expectation to nearly 3.8%, so difference is significant. So the results here reflect that the mutual primary information on green policy, we have a low group and increase the quantitative inflation expectation. So it implies that people they have a structural review of the climate change policies. So they have a limited information, they have low growth expectations, and they have high inflation expectation. And the second set of results here, now we look at the information we provide, so the impact of the demand side narrative and the supply side narrative. And this information here was to remind you about the demand and the supply side narrative. And here is the question we ask how much you agree with this statement. And here we have 2 groups, the demand group and the supply group here. And we can see that in general, on average, the people that tend to agree with the information we provide, and on average for the demand side it's a 5.6, and for the supply side it's a 5.8 or 5.9. So tentatively they agree with the information we provide, but they agree more with the supply side narrative. So we're consistent with the stagflation review of the climate change policy. And now we just have a regression. This is really the impact of the information we provide compared with the control group who didn't receive any further narrative about the potential impact of climate change policies. And here we have 2 groups here with the demand narrative and the supply narrative, and the control group, so who just receive the primary information. So it's a play as a reference group, and the information treatment is the impact here is compared to the control group without further information. And here we also control for demographic as well, but the result does not change whether we include demographic or not, because the demographic is similar of the control group and treatment group. And here, the first 2 columns here, because we use a qualitative question, so that's why we use all the regression. And for quantitative expectation, we use a pupil regression, so it's a kind of overlap regression, but it's effectively handling the issues of outliers, because when we ask about interpretation, many households they have very unrealistic about inflation expectations, and someone they can go provide 50%, 1%, for example, but the real or the truth level of inflation was about 3% or 4%, which is very far from the actual inflation rate. So that's why we need to control for all the technical issues of alliance. And here first, we look at the impacts of the narrative on economic growth expectation. We find that both informs we provide here, either the demand side or the supply side, if we use economic growth expectation compared with those who do not visit further narrative or explanation about the potential impact of different policies. We find that the impact of the supply side narrative is a little bit higher compared with the demand side on the point forecast, point impact here, but the impact from the demand side 7.2 and 11 here is not significantly different from each other. So we can say that the voting function here they have similar impact on economic growth expectation. And when we look at the impact on inflation expectation, we find that only information about the supply narrative, they increase inflation expectation for both qualitative and quantitative, but for the demand information here they have no impact on inflation expectation. And if we look at the AD and AS macro models, we can find that if the aggregate demand is reduced, it can lower price level, right? But in this case, we do not find any impact of the aggregate demand change or the shift in the aggregate demand on the left-hand side. There is no change on inflation. And if we look at some total interest with some different households, the demand side here also even in some cases they increase inflation expectation. So we do not find any credit that the information we provide about demand here can low inflation expectation. They does either low impact or positive impact on inflation. But for the supply side here, it's consistent with theory that if growth is or the supply is reduced with the high level of inflation expectation. So the results here, we can see that with the people, if they look at or they replace some supply narrative information, typically update the beliefs about economic growth and inflation consistent with theory, but it's not for the demand side narrative.
May I clarify a little bit about the dependent variable for the first regression? In that case, you just create the intervals of expectation about economic growth, right? Or was it in the interval already when you asked? Because it is a order problem.
Yeah. So here is so here we have three options, right? With the decrease, stay unchanged, or increase. And here is the option. So actually, in this regression, we should provide all three options. The likelihood that they choose will decrease or stay unchanged or increase, but we will basically multiply that into the probability or the likelihood that they enter that economic growth will increase. So in this case, the function we provide here will lead to the lower probability or the lower likelihood that they choose the answer that economic growth will increase over this finding.
Was there a question on the expectation on the what is the number in terms of economic growth?
No. That's because it's quite hard people to think about the growth on average over this 5 years. Because it's quite hard to ask some kind of question. So that's why we just ask for the inflation indication for quantitative. So the last question or the last results here we have the impact of the region policies of trading ECB, and this is the last question we ask in our surveys, because in our survey we have maximum 6 questions we can add to the next final online survey. So this is the last question in our proposal. And here we provide the information to everyone that the ECB is responsible for safeguarding price stability in the euro area. And what impact do you expect the federal government's measure to reduce carbon emission to have on ECB ability to safeguard price stability when it's challenging ECB or unlawful or weakening the market of the ECB. And here's the result. You can see the impact of across the control group and the shipping group, the demand and supply. And for three categories, where it's challenging, unaffected, and the weakening. And here, for example, now we just focus on the control group without any further narrative. Okay? So this control group only, and we find that about 50% of the sample they find that these the pricing policy has no impact on market ECB to this price stability, and about 60% of the sample they say that these measures even can strengthen the market ECB to price stability. But we find that up to 32% of the sample they say that these measures will weaken the ECB market to keep price stability. And we also find that when we provide further narrative about the demand impact on the supply and the potential impact on the supply side of the economy, you can see that the distribution of this answer is very much similar. So we can say that provide further narrative on potential impact of regional policy of the economy and the impact on the ECB. So it's just really based on the policy itself about regional policy, how it impact on the ECB pricing. More people think that this national way quickly the ECB and the pricing is there. Also think that this national can strengthen the market. So when we summarize all the results we have so far, so three main results, we can see that the neutral rising function of interest policy, the low interest rate and the increased quantitative inflation, and the share people they think that this measure can strengthen ECB is much lower than those who think that this measure can support the ECB credibility with price stability. So it's consistent with the views of stagflationary views of the climate policy. And when we provide the demand narrative framing, compared with the control group, without we find that equity growth is reduced, but there is no change of inflation. So the people of the household, they have no inflationary ability, or they don't understand how all the change in aggregate demand impact on inflation or price levels. So that's why we see that in the spotlight fact, when they look at in the literature, they look at the link between inflation expectation and economic growth expectation in literature in many countries over many time periods. They find that the household have a negative correlation between economic growth expectation and inflation expectation, and it's very much different with the economist view. So that's we often think that the macro condition is really driven by the identity. And for the supply narrative, we find that when people read the news about the supply impact, they update consistently with the theory, but it was not necessarily updating their low growth and high inflation. But for the German ECB, we verify that these narratives have an impact on the German ECB. And it was consistent with the literature way. And also in our book as well, we also find that the narrative of information we provide of a short information have been changed the German ECB or institutional trust, because it's something it's a very hard to change this by information. And that's about constitution, and here's the last slide about constitution and some policy implication from our paper to the lectures and for policy communication. So we provide some insights about how to perform market expectations. We provide some counter evidence on the stagflationary views of climate policies, and shot with information binary. That is tracking and new results, and also highlights all the narratives in certain expectations, and narrative framing has made this impact on institutional trust or trust central. And some implication for policies communication here, that is not so the central bank or fiscal policy should communicate about the potential impacts of the policies they planning to do or they currently conduct. It's not only about what is the contents of the policy, but what the potential impact of the policy we want to do. And in this paper, we focus on climate policies because it's very debated topic at the moment, but it's also potential to extend to other topics like AI adoption or fiscal policy design and large-scale structural transformation if we provide some narrative about what potential impact this policy on the economy. Yeah.
Could we go back?
Yeah.
Here, with the transfer ECB, am I understanding correct? The ability of ECB to achieve its inflation target, right?
Yeah.
So they trust in ECB, but at the same time, they envision the stagflationary impact, the neutral group and the supplementary group.
Yeah.
So, is that consistent? How did you interpret that?
Yeah, that's a very good question actually. When we plan this movement, and we also have hypotheses that the supply view or stagflationary view, they can maybe weaken the trading to compare with the control group or with the demand group. But sometimes we will not find any specific effects of the narrative about supply or demand on the trading ECB. So that's why we find that the narrative we provide has very much little impact on certain ECB and just again it's a very hard to trace with a very short information. And because when people they have some trust in institutions, especially in advanced economy, I think it's very hard to change. Maybe in the different context like in developing countries or the trading scale is low. For example, some information can have a very strong impact on how people trust in the institution. So
related to that one, I'm very curious about the demand side that you had at the start of the slides. I guess the second or third slide, the downward slope. So what does it tell you about the ability of central banks to anchor the inflation expectations? So it tells me that they're not successful.
Even for the household views about expectation.
Am I getting something wrong there?
I think it's have to link with this graph or the negative link between the interpretation and equity growth, and then we like that in the central slope because maybe just the way that household they form the belief about the macroeconomic condition is very different from household.
But all the idea behind inflation targeting is managing the inflation expectations, right? Then when I look at that panel, I see that the central banks are not able to manage the inflation expectations.
So that's exactly that is challenge for the central bank at the moment. So now if we look at the economic view, we can see that it's a positive correlation. So if we can manage the we can manage the inflation expectation. But also it's challenging, and but could mean that we need to educate about the potential impact of the demand side on price level.
When carrying out this research, did you come across any papers analyzing the effectiveness of inflation fighting and the causal expectation, etc.
Yeah.
I'm asking because I have a paper on inflation expectation and I want to get some fresh perspective from you.
Yeah. So actually, all my works, so far I have been working at the inflation expectation, and so from many different views, how to perform expectations and invite expectation of consumption and things like communication or inflation expectations. So we find that it's very hard for central bank to reach the household and communicate with the household.
What is the horizon in that graph, downward sloping graphs? 1 year, 5 year?
It's a 1 year ahead.
1 year.
Yeah. So it's a short-term expectation. Yeah. Question.
Yeah, thank you very much for the very interesting information. I looked at bottom test in your paper.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think east, north, west, and south.
Yeah.
I'm curious about the geographical diversification. You mentioned the power of information in your RCT. So I'm really curious about how things representative of your sample. With this, of course, it seems to me that the geography is very diverse.
Yeah.
I'm curious about how information when you make the identification strategy, for example. And yeah, and just another curious question about the attrition rate. How did you happen the attrition rate when you drop your experiment succeed that you have the data of 66 months?
Yeah. Yeah. So, but this is the unbalanced bundle data, and this way they also have new and refreshers in the surveys as well. And the plan here is what they don't ask the same household clients immediately, but then we ask about next 3 months, for example. So that's why in our surveys here in June we have to wait until September to see over the next 3 months, and now they review the interview over the next 3 months. And so that's why they only want, in this way, we have a lot of new respondents. So it's very hard to see the attrition here, the drop off between the first grade and the second grade, or from one grade to another. And for the bottom test, here, as you mentioned here, for demographic, for the location or geo, for the location, we just find they have 4 areas, east, west, north, and south. And I think it's in macro, and they also consider that it's a kind of amplitude survey in Germany. And this kind of survey in Germany as well. It's not repetitive we get in location, but also we get into S income, allocation, and vendors.
Okay, so I have another curiosity with respect to the way the questions were designed. So I would understand that we have the control group, and then the demand side and the supply side. How about educating people on both aspects, on both demand and supply side? When did you have you split the sample into 3 groups, right?
Yeah, in 3 groups.
Why not 4? I mean,
So it's a combined supply and demand, right?
but is there a reason for that?
Yes, also have reason for that. And because the sample size is 4,000, and then we have a split going half with 5 years ahead and half with 3 years ahead. So in our sample actually we have 2,000 for 5 years ahead, for example. And 2,000 discussed quite a lot. And I think that it's also first regarding the sample size, and we have like a lot of different groups. And then we have to decide whether we provide both positive and negative, and then also combine both positive and negative. And the reason is that we exclude the positive here and go for the negative impact because the people, especially with the policy makers, they concerned about more about the negative side of the policy. And especially for the central bank, the negative supply shock is harder for the central bank to manage. So that's why a lot of literature and the discussion will focus more on the negative side. And one more thing is that I also raised here, and I will just here is focus on very short-term periods for over the next 5 years to the green transition. And in the green transition, some first potential impact of the green policy is mostly the discussion about the negative impact of this policy on the economy rather to the long-term positive impact maybe over the next 10 years or the 20 years. That absolutely in process of really have positive impact on the economy. But the side effect of the short term of the next 5 years, most of discussion so far and concern so far is about negative impact on the economy.
And I don't know how you can do that, or even if you can do that, but perceptions in a country, average perception about green transition might affect the results to a great extent.
Actually, also like the results, in our papers here at the beginning of the Bundesbank survey, they also have one question. They asked about how much the concerns about different topics like climate change, economic growth, or just policy.
You could even use some control question within the survey about
and then we also do some heterogeneity.
knowledge or stance on green transition.
Right?
It might affect the outcomes.
But I do understand that the maximum number of questions is
So that's why we also have some capacity limited team. That is, we have to optimize the number of questions, how we use this. And but we also have one question, and in our paper we also split some heterogeneity impacts about different groups. But also with high concern about climate change, or low concerns about climate change, or concerns about the economic or the macro issue. And we will find much different whether they are high concern or low concern about climate change together to possibly provide.
Can we go to just to slide number 14? I'm a little bit curious.
He even remembers the slide.
I have the slides in front of me. This is interesting, right? I mean, but let's say, how do we make the interpretation of the differences? Because actually, method reference is 2.05 and 2.25. Was 2.25 is economically significant. I mean, the difference is quantitatively. I mean, you can show that they are different. But how to evaluate the economic significance of that?
So actually, I think it's just a very short way to compare it. But because we have three categories, like increase, stay the same, and decrease, we also can show the share of the before and after, and then we can see that the share, they say that the economic growth increase before is much higher than the share. They say that increase, they say that the economic growth will increase after the chip. So I don't remember exactly the number so far at the moment right now, but it is very much. And those who after the chip, they say that this policy will slow this growth is the share is very high.
But let's say, looking at the third panel, right?
It is one of the things on the quite easy to see.
Yeah, it is quite easy to see. Let's say, one of the way what is the economic significance of a 3.25% inflation rate was 3.65? I mean, after and before, so there is significance, let's say, for the central bank to have 3.10, 3.2, or 3.
Like 3.8, so because of 5, because this point I think is quite large.
But all of them seem to have the expectation that is beyond the inflation target by the EC.
Yeah. Because the household also have some upward bias as well. So that's why if we look at the household survey data, the expectation is over higher than 10%. It's a very different. If we look at the professional forecasters, for example, you can see that if we ask the professional forecasters something about inflation in the next 5 years or 3 years, they almost play at 2%. So that's a very different between economists and professional forecasters and households.
When we look at the scattered diagrams, the households are not rational, right? They are not.
To some extent, it's not
So why would you expect them to be rational here?
So actually, we do not expect rational. We just want to understand
But
for expectation.
I understand you use the treatments, etc. But there's something wrong there, okay? I'm stuck in that slide. There's something wrong there. Without understanding the core issue there, how could you trust the results on that group?
Can you say the slide? Which slide?
Next one.
The inflation expectations increasing while the growth is decreasing. The second slide, I guess. Second or third slide. Did I get it wrong?
This one.
Yeah. So what's happening here? The expected inflation implies
High expected inflation for household, expected lower economic growth.
so high inflation expectation but low economic growth. So in the professional set, it was increasing the relationship, right?
So for professional forecaster, it's a positive correlation.
So normally we accept this as the correct stance. And the other one has some problems. And I'm really perplexed about those problems, why we have this picture, and if we have this picture, then they have some problems with building the expectations.
So this is why here, it's very interesting to understand how people they have some kind of views, especially why households they have stagflationary view of macroeconomic conditions, why they also have always negative version between inflation and economic growth.
What is the sample data set here? The starting and end dates?
For example, in the USA, here for the United States, it's a data from 1980
So it's a long sample.
It's a long sample, but if we look at in any single years, it also quite similar pictures as well. But here's the result from the literature, so quite standard or quite well-known figures from my paper, but this is the result from the literature.
This is an annual average or monthly average? I think it's at least monthly, right?
Now they conduct the monthly survey, but they actually, but also at the household level. But even in our survey as well, when we when we take this graph for Germany in our survey, we get quite similar picture as well, even in our survey.
It would be much more valuable if we could paper would be much more complete.
Yeah, but professional forecaster, they also have a kind of full information already. So if we provide some information for professional forecasters, it's hardly to see any impact for.
But you didn't try.
Yeah, I mean, in the lecture, they also try as well, and actually, but the information we provide is more complicated and more sophisticated. The information is not some kind of very similar or very simple information we provide. Like, for example, for households, if you just say about inefficient target of 2% from the ECB or the central bank, for example, it's already very powerful information for the household. So there's a few households in those target of 2% is efficient target, but they are all economic, you know that.
I understand you focus on households. I understand you're trying to understand where narratives are important in building expectations. But even if the professional group is already knowledgeable, you don't need to use the same narratives from the household. You can build the demand side and supply side narratives for them. And there might be some different results in that. And that would confirm the first two distribution or scattered graphs.
I see your point. Yes. Maybe for professional forecaster, if we provide demand size together also has low because and also low inflation.
Hopefully.
So for expectations here, we have, I think, three main Asian households, firms, and professional forecasters. So, and all three Asians here is important equally. So, professional forecaster also important for the central bank, but firms' expectations also important, and households also important. But different households and different information here on the result of different things here, I think also meaningful for the central bank to offer their communication with the public. And but it's hard to make in one issue that we can cover all Asian at once, like household, firm, and professional forecaster at the same time. But I think it's ideal.
That would be tough to have a family control scale with the professional. It's how can we have a large sample.
Yeah, exactly. So professional forecaster, for example, I think it's just ice protein or city games on countries, but I agree with the same size.
I that one.
Yeah, but actually in Germany, a kind of professional forecaster here, they ask about economics in Germany, and actually they ask all professionals in macro in Germany for some survey in Austria. They also provide the professionals, not professional forecaster, but a kind of very knowledge about macro issues. And
that sample is much larger.
yeah, it's much larger than the traditional professional forecaster, but they are both professionals or technical or professors in macro economics or in economics in general.
That's just another clarification. So why do they call it household survey? I mean, that should be an individual survey, right? Household seems to be
Yeah, exactly. That's also the question. We also got feedback as well. Yes, I did. Strictly speaking, this would be or consumer expectation. So I think consumer is the most standard term for that. But the Bundesbank called it household survey, but actually those consumers or individuals
and by that, when they form the panel, I would expect, like, from what you said, I would understand that it is kind of like a rotating panel, but not really rotating.
Yeah.
So how long a person is kept in this panel for?
Yeah, I think they can participate up to 9 times. Yeah.
Is there any exception?
Yeah. They have some incentive, and actually each time they participate in the survey, I don't know how much they can put, but yeah, there is something that's incentive. And the survey here is conducted by a survey company, so survey research company, and on behalf of the investment, and also all the households they receive invitation from the president of the investment to participate in the survey. So that's kind of motivation for the household or commitment to answer the question.
I guess there would be information about the demographic.
Yeah, they are more demographic like this income generation, job
Yes, Dr. Zhang, I have a question.
Yes.
So, yes, this is the household survey done by Forsa, isn't it?
Yeah,
And,
exactly.
they have a usual question every month that affect our every month, right?
Yeah.
And in June, the questions were sent out with the narratives that you added
Yeah,
and your research group added.
yeah.
Very nice. I think that's a very nice way. Do you acknowledge that along with your research, are there other research that are also conducted in this way, that they add some of the adjustment or implications in the question in this way? And how the responses will change after such, let's say, a little bit of intervention.
Yeah, they also have another experiment in our survey as well, but in very different topic and unrelated topic, like I don't remember exactly now, but yeah, it's an unrelated topic because the team, the experiment team here, they try to combine different experiments in one survey, but in very much different topics. So that is to make sure that the information from our survey is no effect on the other experiment. And all the experiments here they conducted after the core set of questions in the experiment. So it was add on and at the moment of the experiment they currently have open over proposals to solve the question and everyone can apply as well.
Thank you very much. I think your research is very interesting, and I agree with my colleagues over there that the results we found out were rational. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
So let's say, why 3 years and 5 years, but not 1 year? Because let's say, again, here we look at the time horizon, right?
Yeah.
So can people think of 5 years as somehow a little bit in the long run, or what? I mean, why do you choose 3 years and 5 years?
Because 3 years and 5 years can medium term expectation, and also we know that the remittance policy is it's a very, I think it's a more interested in a little bit longer time horizon compared to 1 year ahead, but it's too short to see the impact. So, and also the reason we focus on 5 years ahead because of the timing here also is 2030, so exactly for 5 years horizon. So that's why we emphasize about the 5 years ahead to consistently with the information we provide. And here also we talk about the economic expectation and inflation on average over the next 5 years. So that's why I think it's because one seat is long term as well, over 5 years or maybe more than 5 years, so that's why we look at the 3 and 5 years ahead.
So the floor is open to the students also, please, if you have questions. Okay, if not, then let's give Dr. Zhang a little applause. Joining us online, we have tasty refreshments here. I've said something about you. Bye-bye, guys.
Okay. Yeah.
I send my greatest applause that I can.
Yeah, and I'm still here over this week as well. So, if anyone of you interested in topic or survey with some experiment and integration expectation, macro expectations, just let me know and we can have a chat and talk more about it. Yeah, thanks a lot.
Thank you very much.
Now, the floor is open for refreshment also. Again, guys, please enjoy some.
Bắt nó đi ăn đấy. Đi ăn hả? Vớ vừa cho nó đỡ quyền. Không, nhìn nó vui mà giống như mấy con thì mấy xanh á. Men viết màu đỏ nhưng mà